This is Ann. She's the leader of a community fighting for black people's rights in Durham, North Carolina. That morning, Ann went straight to the mayor's office to demand proper housing for black citizens. But while she was explaining her case, the white officers there acted as if she didn't exist. They ignored every word she said. Frustrated, Ann tapped one of the officers on the head to get his attention. Suddenly, the mayor walked in, trying to calm things down. Even though he didn't really care, he wanted to look good in public. So he told Ann to bring her concerns to an open city hearing instead. Ann understood, and left the office without another word. That night, a man named Ellis stood in front of a crowd of Ku Klux Klan members. The KKK, a white supremacist group, believed that the white race was above all others. Ellis was their leader in Durham. In his speech, he warned that black citizens were starting to demand equality, and told his men to stop them at all costs. "We need to show them who runs this city," he said firmly. The next morning, the mayor stopped by Ellis's gas station. While filling up his tank, he casually mentioned that Ann and the black community were coming to the open hearing that night. Since he couldn't block them directly, he asked for Ellis's help. Ellis understood exactly what that meant. That evening, when Ann arrived at City Hall, she was shocked. Every single seat had already been taken by KKK members. She and the others were forced to stand. When the hearing began, Ann stepped forward and presented her letters of complaint. She explained how housing for black families had been built poorly, no toilets, dirty water, and a neighborhood unfit for anyone to live in. With determination in her voice, she demanded that the mayor treat them like human beings. But the mayor only replied coldly, saying their request would be taken into consideration. The hearing was postponed. The next morning, Ellis was at the hospital, visiting his son, a young boy with autism. Despite his differences, Ellis still loved him deeply. Meanwhile, at a school for black children, disaster struck. In the middle of class, a fire broke out. When Ann heard the news, she rushed to the scene. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but the entire school was burned to the ground. The principal told her the school had to close due to severe damage. Hearing that, Ann was heartbroken. For the sake of her daughter and every black child's future, she vowed to take action. That night, at a bar, Ellis was drinking when a local politician approached him. He told Ellis that the black school had burned down, and that Ann was now asking the city to let black students attend white schools. The proposal would be discussed at the next open hearing. Ellis clenched his jaw in anger. If things kept going this way, he said, those inferior people would only grow bolder. A few days later, another open hearing was held at City Hall, and arrived with the parents of black students, while Ellis came with his group of KKK members. Just like before, tensions quickly rose. The mayor decided to postpone the hearing once again. The next day, at the Department of Justice, the federal government finally stepped in. To help mediate the growing conflict in Durham, they sent a black lawyer named Bill, a man known for his experience in resolving racial disputes. The following day, Bill invited Ann and Ellis for lunch. After a brief introduction, he calmly explained why he was there. He'd been assigned to handle the issue of black students transferring to white schools. Over the next few weeks, he would bring together parents from both sides to make sure this program could run smoothly. Bill said he needed two assistants, one from the black community and one from the white community. Then, without hesitation, he appointed Ann and Ellis to work side by side. But the moment they heard that, both of them immediately refused. Bill let out a deep sigh. The next morning, Bill gathered Ann, Ellis, and several parents from both races at the school. He explained that this program wouldn't just involve the parents, it would involve the entire city, to make sure everything stayed transparent and fair. After the long explanation, Bill once again pointed to Ann and Ellis. At first, they still refused, but when no one else volunteered to take the role, they had no choice but to accept. The following day, everyone began handing out flyers across the city, inviting people to join the next community meeting.
Oh yeah, it's down on the street, continue to fight for us white.
So I can't see her letting him.
CP Ellis don't scare me.
Folks in this town like things the way they are.
She's an old Diamondback. And she says she can't do things. But she's a queen, and such a queen, that she don't make false claims. You betcha.
A week later, the first major meeting finally took place at the school. Dozens of parents and residents filled the room. The discussion went on for hours. By the end, Bill announced that during the next meeting, they would elect 5 jurors from each race to decide whether black students could attend white schools or not. Before closing, one participant suggested they pray together. But Ellis immediately stood up and said coldly, "I won't do it. To me, the prayers of black people aren't the same as ours." After the meeting, and confronted Ellis outside. Her voice was filled with anger and conviction. "Our races may be different, but remember the God of all people is still one and the same." The next morning, Ann saw a few black residents vandalizing KKK signs at the school. She rushed over and stopped them. "Even if the KKK is evil," she said, "we can't fight hatred with hatred." From a distance, Ellis watched silently, as Ann carefully fixed the torn KKK banner. For the first time, he didn't know what to say. The next morning, after 5 jurors from each race had been chosen, Bill reopened the meeting. During the discussion, both sides kept arguing, accusing and insulting each other. In the middle of the heated room, one black juror slowly stood up. His voice trembled as he spoke. "It's natural for every parent here to worry about their children," he said. "But the fear of white parents is not the same as what black parents feel. Every day, black children face discrimination. They get spat on, kicked out of public places, and told where they can or cannot sit. They haven't done anything wrong, yet they still suffer, simply because of the color of their skin. That pain is something white children will never know." After those words, the entire room fell silent. When the meeting ended, it was time for lunch. Ellis and Ann happened to sit at the same table, trying to ease the tension, and started a small conversation. At first, Ellis ignored her. But when Ann gently asked about his son, Ellis's expression changed. He snapped. He said, "Don't ever talk about my son again." Days went by. Ellis and the community kept meeting to discuss the school issue.
The issue where grandma's name all on a piece of glass. Billy, don't you run so fast. Warning she'd say, grandma's hand. Sue the local grandma's hand. Used to ache sometimes. Jesus' hands, grandma's. Put yourself in G for grandma's hand. Billy came in a handy grandma's hand. Time I fed grandma's hand.
One morning, during another school meeting, Ellis suddenly received a phone call. His son had a meltdown at the hospital. He immediately rushed there. When he arrived, he was shocked. His son had been moved to a general ward, no longer in the special care unit for children with disabilities. Ellis begged the nurse to move his son back, but she said there was nothing she could do. The hospital hadn't received payment for last month's bill. Because of that, his son had to stay in the general ward. Ellis stood there, heartbroken and helpless. That evening, during the community meeting, Ann noticed Ellis wasn't there. Curious, she went to his office and overheard him on the phone, talking about his son's condition. The next morning, Ann quietly went to the hospital. When she saw the boy's condition, her heart sank. Without saying anything to anyone, she asked the nurse to move Ellis's son back to the special care room, and she told the staff, "Send the bill to me, I'll cover it." That afternoon, when Ellis found out his son had been moved back, he immediately went to find Ann. He saw her in the cafeteria and instead of thanking her, he exploded in anger. "I don't need help from a filthy black," he shouted, and said nothing. The next day, Bill invited Ann, Ellis, and the other parents to visit the burned-down black children's school. Seeing this with her own eyes, Ellis's heart began to soften. She stood quietly, as if realizing for the first time. That night, when Ellis returned home, he told his wife, Mary, everything he had seen at the school. He described how those children had to study, in broken classrooms, without proper facilities, and with conditions no child should endure. Mary listened quietly, then smiled softly. If you're starting to see them with your heart, she said gently, then ask yourself this: who have you really been fighting all this time? The next morning, Mary decided to visit Ann's house, and greeted her warmly and invited her in. At first, it was awkward, but soon, the two women began to talk about their families, their children, and even about Ellis. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, where the Ku Klux Klan practiced shooting, Ellis stood watching the others. One of his fellow members approached him. He said coldly, "Words out. Everyone knows that black woman helped your kid. Don't go soft just because of her. Remember why we started this." He added that some of the white jurors were getting a little too friendly with the black community, and that made the Klan nervous. Ellis clenched his jaw, glared at the man, and walked away without saying another word. The next morning, at a local bar, Ellis's friend came to him again. He leaned in and whispered, "Don't worry, you'll win the final vote. I've already made sure of it. The mayor and I threatened the white jurors. None of them will dare side with the blacks. If the vote ends in a tie, their proposal automatically fails," he said with a grin. Ellis froze. Then, without a word, he left the bar and went straight to the mayor's house. In politics, sometimes, you have to get your hands a little dirty to win. Ellis said nothing. He turned around and walked away. That night, during the Ku Klux Klan's regular meeting, Ellis was surprised to see several high-ranking members from the national KKK had come all the way to Durham. They said they wanted to give him a special award, a token of appreciation for his hard work in leading their local chapter. The room erupted in loud applause. But in the middle of all that noise, Ellis felt uneasy. Inside, a question started to echo in his mind. Have I really been doing the right thing? The next day at the office, and heard shocking news: the white jurors were being threatened not to side with the black community. Furious, she slammed her desk and stood up. Moments later, Ellis walked in. But before he could say a single word, and burst out in anger, "You coward, Ellis! How could you stoop so low?" Ellis said nothing. Even though he wasn't behind the threats, his silence made him feel guilty. He could have stopped it, but he didn't. That night, Ann went home and broke down in tears. She thought of her daughter, and the future of all the black children who might lose their chance at education. All her efforts felt meaningless. She felt like she had failed. Now, all she could do was wait for the final vote the next evening. The next night, the room was packed. Parents, townspeople, and even KKK members sat in the same hall. Bill opened the meeting with a short speech, then invited each juror to cast their vote to decide whether black children would be allowed to attend the white school.
With Miss Wilson.
I vote yes.
Mr. Watford?
I'm a no.
Yes.
Hell no.
Hey,
I vote hell yes.
I vote yes.
School integration, and I vote yes.
Vote yes on school integration.
Respectfully, I vote no.
No.
Miss Atwater.
Yes.
And then, it was Ellis's turn. Ellis slowly walked to the front of the room. Every eye was fixed on him. He took a deep breath and began to speak. When I first joined the KKK, I truly believed the white race was superior. I thought hating black people was the right thing to do. But after I opened my heart, after I got to know them, I realized something. We're all the same. We're all human. And we all share the same God. Then, Ellis reached into his pocket, pulled out his KKK membership card.
Mr. Riddick, I vote yes.
The next morning, Ellis was woken up by a phone call. His gas station had caught fire.
Where's the key?
Luckily, the fire was contained before it spread, but fearing for his safety, he kept a gun close by ever since. Days passed, and most of his white customers stopped coming. His business was dying, but deep inside, he felt at peace for the first time. One afternoon, Bill came by with a big smile. "Good news," he said. "The black children have officially started attending the white school." Ellis smiled softly. He felt proud and relieved. Just then, the sound of engines grew louder outside. Dozens of cars pulled into his gas station. Ellis stepped out and was stunned. They were black families, lining up to buy gas from him.